just go over a few of the objectives that we've got for this particular session. I hope you brought your afternoon snacks or your coffee. We've got tea and dark chocolate here, and I just finished my early lunch. So hopefully you brought a snack along, because this is really designed to be an informal chat, chew, and exchange between folks about what has worked and not worked over the past year in your recruitment strategies, and some tips and resources that might support your recruitment for this next year. So we'll be going over and sharing successes and challenges that you've each experienced, and hopefully gaining new ideas from each other and a few from us to help you improve your recruitment over the next year. And we'll be ending our session with an exploration of some of the recruitment tools that are on the web that are available to you and may support your efforts over the next year. Let me go ahead and say that if you have not muted your phones yet and you're on this call, go ahead and mute your phone so that there won't be as much background noise. And I think to do that, you need to hit *6 if you don't have a button on your phone. Great. So I just heard a few mutes going. And I want to offer, just before we move on, a little caveat about the session. We really were pleased to get so much input around the successes and challenges you all had experienced via these pre-assessment questions that we sent to you. And there's a lot of discussion and a lot of buzz, as we all know, about AmeriCorps and the glitches in that particular system that have had some impacts on the recruitment process of a lot of folks. We won't be spending a lot of time delving into the specific troubles and glitches with AmeriCorps. I think we're all aware that the corporation is hard at work trying to problem solve some of these and get these glitches fixed before the new recruitment year. Also, as training providers, we don't actually have any particular role or any way to impact the AmeriCorps system. It is an administrative system of the corporation, but at the same time, we're aware that that there's been a lot of frustration and that folks are kind of wondering where to take that frustration and the input that they have about what's not working for them. So what we've decided to do is set aside a little time at the end of the webinar, and we're going to take your input and your feedback about AmeriCorps and make sure it gets to where it can be heard and addressed by the folks at the corporation. Okay, so now we'll go on and do a little bit of housekeeping.
Great, and I'll just jump in. This is Eric, and we're using WebEx, as you figured out. Some of you have been working with some of these tools already, but we just want to quickly point out some features and some tools we'll be asking you to use throughout this session. First of all, on the right-hand side of your screen, you should see a series of panels which you can open or close. And if, for example, we tell you to chat and you don't see a chat panel, you can click the button in the upper right-hand corner that says Panels, and that will give you the option of opening up the chat panel. We're a small group. Looks like we have, at current count, about 9 attendees in all. So we figure most of this will just be an informal conversation. But if you so choose, there are a couple of other ways that you can ask questions. If you want to put something out there for others to consider, or if you just would like, if you prefer to type a question instead of asking it verbally, there's a couple of ways to do that, and one of which is to use a little button called the Raise Hand. It may look a little bit different than how we have it on the slide. Let's just practice with that real quick. If everyone could click the Raise Hand button. Okay. Yes, there we go. See, Tricia raised her hand. Anyone else having trouble finding that? Should be towards the right-hand side of your screen, and you're at the bottom of the participant panel. So that panel not only lets you see who else is on the line with us, but it also offers a few tools, including the Raise Hand button.
This is Jennifer. Do you see mine? Because I did press the button, but I can't see if I can't tell if it responded.
Yeah, we can. It won't let us click on it and add us either.
Okay. Sounds like we might have a little bit of a lag with WebEx.
Maybe we just can shout out since it's a small group.
You can just shout out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're definitely a small enough group so we can do that. But let me also quickly point out the chat panel as well on the right-hand side of the screen. As I was saying, that's another way that you can ask us a question or make a comment, and we'll return to this later in the session, I hope, if it will do what we hope it can do to process some of the material that we'll talk about in the course of the session. As Nancy mentioned, also please mute your phones, *6 on the system when muted if you don't have a mute or mic button. However, please be sure to unmute your phone if you'd like to make a comment or ask a question. Okay. I've done that many times myself, start talking, not realizing that I had my phone on mute still. And also, we will have an evaluation appear at the end of our conversation today that we'd like to ask you to just take a few minutes to complete. We are doing many webinars here at Norrell and other providers in the corporation family, and we're all looking to improve the way that we design and deliver these things. So please take just a few minutes to let us know what we did right and what we should improve for the next time. Now, not on this slide is another set of WebEx tools that we'd like you to use on the next slide, and if I could have Jerry Ann just underline where on their screen they're probably going to see the annotation tools. Yeah.
I think the pointer.
Okay. Okay. It's going to be at the top of the slide you should see on your screen. It looks like a series of tools that you might find in Word or Excel or some other text editor. There's a pointer button and then a text tool and several others. So it seems like we might be having a little bit of challenges with this, but let's go ahead and try it on the next slide. If you could, and if it works for you, click on the pointer button. It should be the first button that looks like an arrow pointing to the right. Take that tool and just point out on this slide by clicking on the slide where you're calling in from. So Jerry Ann and I have just clicked to show that we're calling in from Oregon or the vicinity of.
We want to get a sense of where all of you are at. Yeah, someone's found the highlighter tool.
I'm just trying to point out where you'll find that toolbar that offers the tools. It doesn't look that great on the screen.
Over there.
Jerry Ann, are you sharing your browser?
We shouldn't need to share the browser for them to use this tool, but I do have the browser sharing on.
Try turning that on.
Do it one more time, please. Click on the link.
Sure. There should be at the top of the slide a toolbar.
Huh?
Across the top. I'm trying to highlight it right now for you.
There's an arrow, a T, a box, a highlighter, a screen, and an eraser.
Hi guys, this is Gina. I'm trying to do that, and actually I'm not able to execute any commands.
Oh no.
Lynette, and mine won't work either. I can't get anything to move.
Jerry Ann, I think you're sharing your browser accidentally.
Yeah, the same is true for us. None of our commands are working. We can't click on anything.
Well, I have I don't think I am sharing the browser because I have the message that says click here to return to web browsing sharing. So it's probably something with WebEx, and I just suggest we move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
How about, since we've got a small number of people, we'll just do some very, very quick introductions. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and what kind of weather's outside your window today. And let's start with Carlene.
And you might need to unmute your phone.
I'm sorry. Yes, I had it on mute. I'm also trying to get on the webinar through the computer system here, and I have you on teleconferencing, so I'm trying to do both.
You look like you're there with us.
Okay. I am here.
Should we see a picture of a map of the United States?
Yep, you're in the right place.
Yay, okay.
So tell us which state you're from and what's your weather.
I'm from central Pennsylvania, and the weather right now is sunny, though this morning it was very rainy.
Thanks. Christy.
We are in south central Pennsylvania, and it is also sunny here.
How about Jeannie?
From the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and it's hot and humid.
Oh, yeah. Jennifer? Are you with us, Jennifer?
Don't forget to unmute.
Okay, forgot about the mute button. I'm calling from Maryland, about 40 miles north of D.C., and it's a gorgeous, sunny summer day.
Hey. Jessica. Unmute that phone if you're with us. No Jessica? Okay, Lynette, are you with us?
I'm calling in from Rebuilding Together in Washington, D.C.
Hi. And Tricia.
This is Lynette. I am southeastern Oklahoma, and it's very, very hot and humid, just like the last girl said, and it is just under 100 degrees. I think it's going to make 100 today.
Boy, you get the prize. Good reason to stay in an air-conditioned office if it is.
Right.
And then Tricia.
This is Tricia with Goodwill, and I'm in Maryland. And yes, it's sunny and beautiful outside.
Great. Tammy?
Hi, this is Tammy Wamichill, and it's cloudy in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Is there anyone else on the phone that we're not seeing WebEx?
It's Leslie. I'm in York, and it is beautiful and warm out.
All right.
Okay.
Well, this is a time where we can count on pretty good weather in Portland, no humidity, high is about 8.
Anyone else that we missed?
This is Gina. I'm in Washington, D.C., and as my fellow folks in the D.C. area, it is glorious here.
Great.
Welcome. We're very sorry we couldn't actually physically place you on this map, but we will problem solve it next time.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. And thanks to all of you who sent in, or rather that answered the questions we put on the registration survey asking you about some of the successes you've had in recruitment over the past year, as well as some challenges and some things you might be looking for that will help you succeed in the future. What we'd like to do over the next couple of slides is talk a bit more amongst ourselves about what some of those successes were, and I'll ask you to describe in a little bit more detail what you did and why it worked and how you went about doing it so we can learn from each other. We'll talk then a little bit more about the challenges that you encountered. And then after we talk about those two items, then we'll move into a resource tour, hopefully, with WebEx to show you some of the resources that we have in the Encore collection, as well as a handful of other recruitment resources that offer free stuff for you, free information, free templates, free materials, that if you're not already aware of them, they're out there and available for you to use and to put to work for you in your next year or next program year or next phase of your project. So let's go ahead and talk about our successes. And in looking over the responses to folks, and I know that we had a few people that registered today or late yesterday, so we may not have your responses in hand with us right now, but we certainly hope you'll share with us if we don't talk about them. But these are a few highlights or themes that we picked out of the responses that people had sent in. A few people talked about using online recruitment tools, that they had success with that. A couple of other people talked about really effective ads that they have either designed or that they effectively placed. And then I think I highlighted one that someone provided, one tip, starting your recruitment early. Yes, certainly the more time, the more advanced time you can put into a recruitment campaign, the more likely it is to be effective. So Jerry Ann's going to open up a whiteboard, and I think we may end up doing this a little bit. Okay. Okay, I see. Well, all of you have been given some additional powers in WebEx, so hopefully you'll be able to participate in this. So Jerry Ann's adding those 3 items or themes that we were just talking about that we noticed in your responses. And we'll be typing some more on the screen, but we also invite you to type notes, if you wish, on the right-hand side of the whiteboard. Jerry Ann's pointing it to it right now. You can use the text tool we were attempting to use earlier to add some notes. But for the most part, we'll just consider this a conversation and handle it that way. But do feel free to jot down anything you'd like to on the whiteboard as well. So let's talk a little bit about online recruitment tools. We'll just open the floor. We don't know necessarily who offered which specific tips, so if you shared something about how online recruitment was successful for you, let's talk about that for a bit. So would someone like to talk about what they did and how it worked for them?
And don't forget to unmute your phone.
So, for example, someone mentioned social media sites like MySpace and Facebook. If you were the one that listed that, can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know that's something that's of great interest to other programs and to the corporation as well as a new means of marketing programs and connecting with volunteers and for programs that serve youth, connecting with youth.
And one thing we'll do is these notes that we take and the notes that you provide us during this conversation, we're going to save those and provide those to you in a follow-up email.
So is anyone using MySpace or Facebook? Or seen an idea that maybe you'd like to try out?
Or the use of a wiki.
Okay.
Well, this is Jennifer. Since no one's offering anything, I'll just, I was at the conference down in Atlanta and attended the pre-conference session where they were really promoting this, so I brought that back to our sub-grantees. And one of our sub-grantees said that their agency had made a decision that they will not allow the use of these social media sites. So I don't know if anyone could talk about the pros and cons or the risks associated with these, and how, sometimes with new technology, there's concern, there's fear, worry about you're losing control, I guess. There was a comment about, you don't have control over what anyone else would add. I personally have never used this, but they were saying, worried about what someone might add about your agency onto this type of system. So if anyone could talk about that at all.
I'd just like to interject that as far as Facebook and the larger social media sites are concerned, you can definitely have some control over who's putting things on your site. And, you can be like an administrator and have actually a lot of control about what goes on your Facebook page, for example.
Okay.
Yeah, we know of a program, and this is a little bit more around retention, but she also used it for recruiting as well. She created within Facebook a little network within a network for her currently serving AmeriCorps members, her alumni, but also her applicants. So people that are in the pipeline, are considering becoming full-time. I think they were full-time members in her case. But she invites them to sign into that Facebook community and get to know some of the currently serving members and the alumni and see some videos and other materials from the site. And as the person, I'm sorry I didn't catch your name, the person was just describing, she has complete control over how that looks and how that functions. She only allows people that she invites to join the community to be active in it. The members actually can't see each other's own profiles, even though they've sort of been pre-screened. they can't see each other's profiles until they invite each other to be their friends, quote unquote. So, I mean, certainly these tools are free, and you can be as private or as public as you want. So for nothing else, for your own personal interest, I'd highly recommend setting up an account. I created a Facebook account for myself not that long ago, and it's amazing all the people that kind of came out of the woodwork, that people from college that I knew with varying degrees of familiarity sent me friend requests, and kind of fun, actually. But we do know that there are some concerns that programs have, and it's not always going to work for all programs, but that's true of any technology. You need to take a look at your members or your volunteers as well as your clients, and does it make sense for you and your program to use this? But I would, as the other person mentioned, reassure you that you have complete control over what the public sees or doesn't see. Have other people worked with Facebook or MySpace within your program, or even personally?
And feel free to add notes through the whiteboard as well.
So feel free to add to that, but someone else mentioned using an online calendar, and then someone else just kind of mentioned online venues for recruitment, so things like Craigslist or Idealist or other online sources.
Sounds like somebody might want to say something. I thought I heard a phone get unmuted.
Okay. Well, actually, Jerry-Ann will take us through a tour of some resources available to us, including some ideas for online recruitment. But let's touch on a couple of the other things that people found successful in their recruiting. So effective ads, designing them effectively as well as placing them effectively. Who had a particularly successful ad that they'd like to talk about? Or found a really cool place to post an ad?
We're going to give prizes for participation. Got some really good dark chocolate bars sitting there.
And you can talk about how you used your ad, how you got it out there, collaborating with community partners in developing ads.
Okay.
Or even other marketing strategies that you've used. How did you get the word out that your program existed? Don't everyone speak at once.
This is Trisha with Goodwill. I don't really have, we basically have used Idealist and Volunteer Match and websites like that. The marketing kind of ads that I've really focused on are the messages, the key messages that I've used have been kind of geared more towards, speaking out to wanting to be a part of creating positive change in the world and that type of thing. But, I can't really say that it's been a great recruitment, tactic. I've gotten some responses, but the responses that I've gotten, I've had, conversations with people and stuff, and it just seems that it's definitely raised some interest, but it's not as if it's, been some sort of miracle worker when it comes to recruitment.
Has it yielded more inquiries than any other things you've done? Or is it hard to know?
Thank you for holding.
I think someone pressed hold instead of mute.
Right.
I did. I apologize.
I didn't hear your question. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, let's just sort of broaden it then. As Jerry-Ann was mentioning, other recruitment marketing ideas or strategies that worked. Or any comments you have on anything else that's been described or that you see typed on the screen.
I'd be interested in hearing if anyone has used success stories, if they've been able to get placement stories in their local papers about some great project that an AmeriCorps member contributed to. And then, you just add the tagline, if you want to be an AmeriCorps member. Has anyone used that approach and gotten any success from it?
Using testimonials or success stories and placing them in the media.
Mm-hmm.
Has anyone done that? Well, I know
people, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Maybe we should just ask people, how are you recruiting? Just go around and call on it.
On the spot.
Okay. Well, why don't we move on to our next brief discussion, maybe in talking about some of the challenges that will dislodge some solutions we came across. But then at any point, even though we may have moved to a different slide, do please share a success or a challenge that you've had. But just or put some notes into the chat. But just to honor the time you put into answering our questions, let's move on to the next slide and some of the challenges that people describe, which I believe Nancy will guide us through.
So we organized these into 3 strands: paperwork and technology systems, finding committed and qualified applicants, and recruiting for around and for school break and summer breaks, and that includes recruiting for part-time positions. We'll set aside the paperwork and technology systems for that last little input question we're going to ask around My AmeriCorps, and move into talking a little bit about how do you find committed and qualified applicants. And that was a challenge that was expressed by several of you. I think I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 folks who responded to the survey, with some of the kind of the subtopics being things like, wow, it took me a whole lot of time to filter through all the applications I got from the various sources, Craigslist, Idealist, etc. We heard things like, there seems to be some misconception about the difference between this being a job versus a service experience, and a mismatch of expectations for some people thinking that they were applying for a job rather than service. Another person put, I'd like to get a higher volume of applications in so that I have more to screen through. And another person put, some of the financial issues related to how to survive on the living allowance seem to be a barrier for their recruitment process. So with those in mind, who else would say or want to add to that particular topic around the challenges you experienced in getting committed and qualified applicants? Say more about what you experienced in that area.
This is Tricia with Goodwill. I'll say that this has kind of been the major challenge. I mean, we just started our national program. This is our first year, so October we'll start our second year. And so we were new at this, and it's been a learning experience. And one of the things that I've found has been the expectation level of the AmeriCorps members is very different. And I'll give you an example. We had a full-time member who came to our program and left in the middle of the program, and one of the things that she said, this isn't a job for me, this is a volunteer experience. And for me, I tried to dig deeper with her to figure out what exactly that meant, because I did understand that the experience obviously needs to be a positive one, and we're really good about providing those professional development opportunities and stuff. But I felt like, she needed to be kind of, for lack of a better term, I guess, kind of coddled the whole time. If she wasn't if she was filling a role that all of a sudden she wasn't interested in or didn't like anymore, she expected us to change the whole program because this was a volunteer experience. It wasn't a job, you know, so we should cater to her interests and her needs at all times. And that's the feeling I'm getting a lot from the AmeriCorps members, is that, you know, we've tried to set the expectation of this is the program, this is what you're getting into, and really tried to make that clear from the beginning. And they agree, and they're very excited about it, and then once they start digging into it, it just doesn't seem like it's what they expected. And so I'm not really sure if anybody has any advice for us, but.
Does anyone?
We talk about our program as a paid internship and couch it in those terms because we primarily have college students. So that's a phrase that they're familiar with, you know, and they get the understanding that there's a commitment on their part, that it's not a volunteer opportunity that they can just choose to do 1 week and not do the next, but they have to fulfill their term of service, and that, you know, the program is not designed around their own unique interests, but rather, you know, this is what the program is, and we make sure during the interview process we go very in-depth about what different types of activities, and they do have a wide variety of activities that they use, but what's involved in the program and what they'll be expected to do, so it's very clear from the beginning.
Another thing we've seen programs do is involve their alumni, or if you don't have members, maybe other volunteers, community volunteers, serve on a panel at one of the initial orientations or trainings to tell the incoming members or volunteers how it really is, both the positives and both the challenges that they've had. So maybe you're already doing that, or maybe there's a place for that, maybe there isn't, but just connecting with incoming members or volunteers with people who've done this type of work in service before, and kind of course, you know, we hope that they'll present us well, but at the same time, you know, presenting the volunteer experience honestly to people who are considering joining.
Other tips for Tricia? Tricia, based on the experience that you had this year, have you thought about how you might vary your conversation for applicants coming in this next year?
Yeah, we've had a lot of internal discussions just about how, you know, how we're going to frame it and how we're really going to add some more questions and discussion topics, you know, throughout the interviewing process to kind of get at some of these issues before, you know, before the terms of service start. Hopefully, and I think, you know, our program officer too had mentioned to us, you know, by doing some training initially or in the beginning of the actual service term to kind of to get at these issues as well. And so we're going to plan to do that for a year or two.
We've got something too on the, it's not on the Encore site yet, but it'll be on the Encore site in the fall. That's a mock interview with a potential candidate where the supervisor is modeling kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly, and really trying to distinguish for them the difference between service and a job, and making those distinctions really clear up front. And it'll be a little video snippet that you all will be able to download and look at and maybe adapt for use in your own program. Other challenges around finding the right people for the right position. How many of you want to increase your applicant pool, would like to get more applicants for the positions that you have?
Absolutely. Definitely.
Okay, I heard two.
So we would also, at Goodwill.
Yeah, we would too. I think, you know, we had a lot of applicants last year, and it took me a long time to go through the amount of applicants that we had because the majority of the applicants were looking for jobs. And so it was, once again, the expectation level was different. Although the ad, specifically says, this isn't a job and kind of defines that, we still had a lot of people who had expressed interest in the job. So, yes, I would like to increase the applicants, but the appropriate applicants.
You want to be able to target it a little better.
Right.
The truth is people don't read deeply, so you have to couple what they read and what they think with a very early on initial, set of here's what it is. How many of you are doing phone interviews? Speak up if you're doing phone interviews as opposed to face-to-face.
This is Tricia. From Goodwill. My tactic is kind of, I do a couple phone interviews before I actually do the face-to-face because that kind of allows me the opportunity to weed through those people who are, are looking for jobs or, have a certain expectation level, and then, asking them questions about experiences and stuff. And then if I feel that, they're good to go to the second round, if you will, then I bring them in and have an actual face-to-face.
Good as an initial screening.
Right.
Anyone else using phone interviews successfully?
We also use them as an initial screening.
Search sure can be a time saver. Anything else in that whole arena of that's bugging you around finding enough committed, qualified applicants?
Well, this is Jennifer. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I think our first year, and again, this is Goodwill, so we had believed, we've been told, and we're attempting to recruit people for unpaid half-time positions. And I think we've concluded, and we're going to try to avoid that next year, but we've concluded that was one of the sources of our problem in terms of recruitment, that particularly in areas where there were lots of AmeriCorps programs, and that was another issue. We thought because we didn't have name recognition as an AmeriCorps provider, that it was hard for us to just get in the pool of potential sites for people interested in AmeriCorps. But and then if you had a lot of people offering paid positions, why would someone come to us? So we thought that was a big mistake for us. And in fact, we asked very directly that question when we were designing our program, and we were told that yes, you can be successful. But I guess I would suggest that information and guidance not be given to new grantees, because I don't think it was good advice for us. So we have mid-year, we've done scrambling and redone budgets and looked for resources internally to try to come up with some money for stipends. And as our sub-grantees in our office did that, our recruitment efforts got a little bit more successful. So we're thinking there is a link there between paid stipends. So I'd like to hear if anyone has a similar experience, but then, of course, the challenge is where do you get the money for those stipends, because it's hard to stretch the AmeriCorps dollar. So we have heard the one successful model that we have heard going to, particularly at the conference in Memphis, which we had never even thought about, was to place your AmeriCorps members in partner agencies and have the partner give you a portion, at least the match fund that helps with the stipend cost.
Gina, are you on the line?
Pardon me?
I'm wondering if Gina is on the line. This would be a good question for you to respond to, I think. Still there? Okay. Anyone else share the similar experience to, I didn't get your name.
Jennifer.
Certainly that is one strategy.
Are you only able to offer education awards? Is that Is that what your program is set up for?
Well, like I said, originally, yes, that's what we were offering. Now we're realizing that's really not sufficient. But we spent a lot of time during our first year trying to recruit for unpaid positions and have concluded that probably was not a successful strategy. So we're trying to revise that within the limits of the budget. So I'd like to hear if other people have been successful. Maybe we haven't thought of something, but also any ideas on how to supplement your budget in order to be able to offer a reasonable stipend amount even for half-time members.
I think from what I've heard, the award-only programs tend to be successful generally where they're college students, and oftentimes there's additional incentives for maybe getting college credit or so forth, of course, doing it part-time. So I think your experience is not unusual, that you would have had a hard time with that. Okay, I think what I'm going to do, given the time frame we're dealing with, is go ahead and move on, and we'll have Jerry Ann show you some of the resources that we came up with to respond to the challenges that many of you expressed, and then we'll save time for some additional input at the end.
So in part of the survey, the highlights from what you need included more access to online recruiting resources, including things like a recruiting timeline, ideas on how to go about recruiting, perhaps even recruiting targeted populations, access to marketing materials, and how do you support host agencies to help you with this role of recruiting applicants. What we're going to do is take you to the AmeriCorps site, which is a collection of web-based resources. These are resources that have been recommended by people who are experienced program staff members. These are folks that are running AmeriCorps or VISTA programs. They've had success with these resources. We've brought together those staff folks to look at the resources and provide their thoughts about how to best use them and put this collection of resources together for the larger field. So they are field-tested, tried-and-true resources for supporting members across their whole cycle of service, from the point of recruitment all the way through to helping them transition out of service. What I'd like to share with you in the session is we'll focus mostly on the recruitment strand. One of the things that you might be interested in learning more about is the information within this strand itself. It will take you through information on getting started, how to conduct outreach, some specific tactics that deal with recruitment, and then a whole section on how to best go about screening and placing your members. One of the things that you do access, it's very slow, is a recruitment timeline is available within this site. I'm going to just click on that link, and this page will tell you how to set about getting started. It includes a 6-month recruitment timeline that you can look at and download, adapt for your own use. It also includes an example of a recruitment process that, again, you can take a look at, download, adapt for your own use. But then also these considerations on what to do when creating a recruitment timeline. Included in that is thinking about how do you write the most powerful position description so that your applicants understand what it is you're wanting them to provide, what kind of service, what their experience is going to be like. And then also things like creating a recruitment plan. How do you do that? So there's some information here on this site. And again, what we'll do is we'll provide a follow-up email that provides you the link to this resource and some directions about where to find specific resources that meet your needs. One of the other things is if we go on to the outreach section is here are ideas on how to really think about your recruitment efforts and how you outreach to the audiences that you want to outreach to. Ideas on researching your options, how to sell your program. And then there is a collection of resources that you can use, from creating your own web presence. So these are, this is an example of how one program has set up their own website so that they can effectively outreach and have a presence on the web, and they find that an effective way of attracting potential applicants, potential recruits. There's also information on how do you recruit online, how do you use local media, even specific resources on creating posters and flyers that you can use at community events, for example. And if you don't have or have very limited experience in creating a press release, but we also provide an example of how you can do that as well. Some of these are submitted by VISTA programs, but they're easily adaptable for AmeriCorps programs as well. So that's an example. Those are some of the resources available within outreach. Recruiting tactics have some of the same information, but there's also some specifics on, here's some links that you can get to the AmeriCorps Media Kit that the corporation provides, including the logos that you need for your recruitment material. But then there's also information and ideas on recruiting for diversity, for example, how to use members in your recruitment efforts, current members, and then again, some of the same resources that you saw on the previous page. There's also a recruitment guide from a sponsor organization to host affiliates, which may be useful for you as well. To address that idea of finding the right person for the right service position, that really takes you into the realm of how do you go about really screening and placing members. Excuse me. And we do have a complete process for looking at your applicant pool, how do you narrow that to a field of viable candidates, and then how do you know, how are you going to make an informed choice, but also how are you going to help members make an informed choice about whether or not it is the position that in the program that they too will thrive in. There's also information on what to do before the new member arrives. So these are all resources that are available and ready for your use and your download. One of the other things that I heard in the course of the conversation was that idea of once they're on board, how do you help them, how do you help kind of manage expectations, if you will? And part of that is the orientation that you provide to these folks. And we do have a whole set of resources on understanding the elements of an orientation, what are some effective methods of providing a strong orientation, fundamentals, what do you absolutely need to include within an orientation, and then we also have a wide range of topics within what are some other ideas, other information that could really help your members understand what they're getting into and support them and build the skills and knowledge they need to kind of stay with you and hang with you during the course of their service year. So that is a section that I think would also be helpful for you. One of the things that you also raised in your pre-survey, if you will, and in the course of the conversation was that idea of working with host sites. And within the supervision strand, we do have a complete section on working with host sites. And we'll be sure to put that in the email that goes out as well. But here, with this information, we have how do you identify and recruit those potential hosts? How do you develop an application process and a host site agreement process where those host sites understand their role, including their role in helping to recruit and retain and support those members. And they do play an important role throughout that cycle of service, from recruiting the applicant, supporting the applicant, and then helping the applicant transition out. And so part of that working with host sites is dealing with that upfront work that you do with them when you first identify them and begin the kind of application and agreement process with them. It also moves into how do you support the host sites through your site visits and kind of evaluation of how it's been going, both for the host site agency as well as for the members based on that site. So those are some of the resources within Encore. I'm going to turn it over to Eric, and he's going to share with you some stuff that's available, for instance, at the mentoring site.
Great, thank you. And just to underline a couple of things that Jerry Ann talked about in regards to the Encore collection, it's a high quality and high quantity collection of resources that you can use. In terms of quantity, we're looking at several hundred resources currently in the collection, and we're sitting on potentially another couple of hundred of additional resources that we've gathered from the field over the course of this year, and that will be making their way into the collection. And in terms of quality, these, as Jerry Ann was describing, were vetted by people such as yourselves that have cracked the nut, at least or cracked the atom to a certain extent on effective recruitment and shared with us documents and resources. So that's why we foreground the Encore collection. We certainly encourage you to go there. It was designed by and for people like yourself. But just to point out a few other things that you can access because they're free, because they were publicly funded and they're out there for you to use, is, as Jerry Ann should have, or as WebEx should be displaying on your screen right now, a marketing toolkit from the Department of Education. And this was put together by some colleagues of ours down the hall in one of our sister projects, the National Mentoring Center. And this is really helpful for a couple of reasons. It provides some concrete examples and templates of how to create certain recruitment or marketing materials, such as a press release, for example, or a frequently asked questions sheet, or a public service announcement if you will be doing radio or television ads. But also, on the screen you'll see under support materials in the lower right-hand corner sort of a higher level discussion of marketing elements and practices. So, for example, the basics of graphic design. You know, any of us with Word or Publisher or desktop publishing systems can create a basic newsletter or create a basic ad. But if we're then going to, if we want that to look professional, or if we're going to give that to a printer, there's some additional things we need to know about layout and about graphic design. And so there are some backgrounders that you see that you can also download and view. So, Jerry Ann, if you could go to the resources for recruiting members, hopefully you know about the Resource Center and have accessed it. They recently redesigned it, so it has a sort of a more colorful and dynamic interface. So we're still getting a little bit familiar with the new layout, but where we've gone is into the page on the Resource Center that provides recruiting resources, things that we've contributed. As you can see, Encore is one of the first resources listed, but that also other projects here at the Northwest Regional Educational Lab, as well as other providers and the corporation itself, have put together and made available to you. So if you're not familiar with the Resource Center, definitely get acclimated to it, and this page in particular. The final resource I wanted to share with you is the website of Energize, Inc. You may be familiar with this. This is actually a for-profit company that provides services and products to volunteer organizations. However, one thing that they kindly offer for free is a page on their website with links to more recruitment resources, more information, and more downloadable tools that you can use in your recruitment efforts. So we'll include, in addition to the Encore links that Jerry Ann mentioned we'll provide, we'll also add the URLs to these sites as well. And they're all places and things that you can use in your recruitment efforts.
So what we've done is we've at least hit the highlights of resources that you can find from Encore in these sections within Encore. And again, we'll follow this up with an email so you can easily get to it. We've also looked at other resources that are available to you through Ed Mentoring, the Resource Center, and Energize, Inc. I think at this point, we can open the floor again for just a few minutes, and we recognize that we're at the end of the time frame for the webinar, but we do want to take the opportunity to at least answer any questions that may be out there. Okay. Well, let's, I
could I ask a question?
Yes, please.
I guess I appreciate pointing out all those resources, and although they've been sitting there waiting for us, it's always helpful to be directed to them. Would there be an opportunity after we review them to have a conversation with one of you about, bounce some ideas off of you?
Absolutely.
Or, bring the whole group back together again if anyone is interested in that.
In fact, if you want to advance a couple of slides, Jerry Ann, we'll send you a copy of this as a follow-up. Here's our contact information. Don't worry, you don't have to write this down. We'll make this available to you, and we are certainly happy to answer a phone call or respond over email. We're charged with helping you succeed in your work, and so if something you've seen here you'd like to learn a bit more about, or you'd like a little bit more hand-holding in using some of the ideas or suggestions or tools we've offered, we're more than happy to do that.
Thank you.
So we're able to stick around to continue our conversation. We know some people may need to head out.
I have an idea about the AmeriCorps. I'm thinking that potentially, several of you put some specific pieces of info about AmeriCorps on your pre-survey. So I'm thinking, in the interest of saving time, we could take that and pass that on to the corporation, reflecting your input if you feel comfortable with that, and add to it anything that you might just want to say to us orally right now. We'll take notes on. So if you didn't get a chance to express what you wanted to say about your experience with AmeriCorps and what your hopes and dreams would be for improving it in the future, tell us now, and we'll add to the input we already have.
And we had thought we would do this with a poll, which our WebEx wizard has just pulled up. So if you want to type something in the poll and then click submit, you can do that. Or if you just want to mention something out loud, we'll take a couple of minutes here at the end to capture some of those thoughts and suggestions. Or if you'd rather follow up with an email to one of us later, that would be fine as well.
This is Tricia. I think that, I kind of put mine in the pre-assessed information. I'm very comfortable with you guys sharing that. And I've also been, really open with our program officer as well, who I know has been, taking that information to the people, at the corporation. So.
Okay, thanks, Tricia. Is anyone not comfortable with us passing on the input that you gave us around AmeriCorps on the pre-survey?
Your name won't be associated with the input. It'll go in collection.
Sure. Okay, so we'll just leave that at that.
Okay. And again, we will be providing a follow-up email with our contact information and links to the resources that we have shared.
And we want to thank you for your participation. When the webinar ends, your screen will pop up with a little survey, and please do us the honor of giving us your feedback to this webinar. And we really appreciate the time that we've spent together, and are happy to talk to each and any one of you individually about your recruitment needs or concerns.
And we'll stick around for the next few minutes, so if you want to ask a question or share something else, we'll be here for a little bit longer.
Well, I have to sign off, but this is Jennifer, but thank you very much.
Sure, Jennifer. Thanks for coming.
Yes, Charlene, I need to sign off too, but I wanted to mention that this is very helpful. Thanks.
This is Tricia from Goodwill. I just have one quick question before we go. Is there any advice or guidance on, the kind of timing of recruitment? I kind of feel like we're in a constant state of recruitment because, ideally, you'd like to have all of your members start at a certain time and their service at a certain time. But I feel like, that just hasn't worked out for us. And so I feel like we're, constantly updating materials on the websites and getting information out there in any way we can. And I don't know if that ends up watering down your recruitment efforts at all. Do you guys have any thoughts about that?
No, we've been working with about 81 veteran programs over the last 3 years, and almost unanimously they all say that they're recruiting all the time. in one way or another. There's a couple of programs that say, well, we put everything on a twice-a-year kind of schedule, but many of them are doing what you're doing, which is keeping kind of a rolling process going and refining and updating and adding to all the time and getting the word out all the time and using current and former members to get the word out all the time and wearing their buttons and, transmitting their success stories and just kind of keeping the recruitment alive, because I think the reality is that we have to grab people for these programs when they're available.
Right.
And they want to, you've got to snag them when the interest is high.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Tricia. You were a great participant. And anybody else still on the line want to?
This is Tammy Wamichel from Cedar Rapids. Just wanted to say thank you for your time. I wasn't able to offer much support. I'm a new worker, so I was just kind of listening in. Thank you.
We're glad to have you. Okay, well, I guess we will sign off as well. And hope you have a very great day.
And best of luck on with your program and with your work and your members' work or volunteers' work. And thanks again for doing all that you do to make our programs and our community stronger.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Sure. Bye now.
Bye.